Terminator 2D No Fate has been delayed again, the third time now, and it's starting to raise some alarm bells. I feel like we're not being told the full picture, so I'll run through everything now. So it was delayed in July, I believe, delayed in October, and delayed in November. All of the reasons that they've suggested is because of the items for the physical copies not being in time, or this time was they've only just arrived and they need to be able to package it and send it all out. The physical release is obviously very important to them. You know, there can be a fair bit of money in that side of things, so they're looking to grab on to that side of things and get everything out for the day one releases, so everything's, you know, all out. That would make sense, except there's a few holes that I'm starting to put into this. So Reef Entertainment, that's the developer. They made the last, I think it was Terminator Salvation in 2019. That was the last game that they made, and that had real mixed reviews, that game. I think a lot of users that bought it didn't mind it and thought it was fine. Especially, I think everyone really wants a good Terminator game, and the Terminator products themselves, albeit there's one or two good versions of it in both movies and video games, there's a lot of slop and a lot of just terrible products associated with this franchise. But outside of that, they haven't really made a lot of games. They've made a few of the ones in Xbox. They're a publisher of that terrible Rambo game that came out many years ago. I think that's now 20 years old or something like that. But I remember playing it a long time ago. I remember that being god-awful. But, you know, that the Terminator Salvation wasn't a great game, let's say, and it was marked with a few issues. I remember it being delayed and had a few bugs when it first got released. The reason why I've got the warning flags on is actually the second delay, the one in October. They said the week of that it was coming out that it's been delayed because of the physical items not being in time, which made me a bit worried, because I was just kind of thinking, well, they would have known that ahead of time, especially when you get to now and they've said that they need to delay it another month, if not a full month. I think it's about 5 weeks they're delaying it from now, because they only just received the items for the physical launch. So when you think of the first two delays that were very last minute, you know, it was just before the game was actually coming out that they delayed it, they would have known that weeks out if that's the case. So I'm thinking that there's something else here. Like, sure, I'm sure they've had issues with getting some of the physical items in. They also blamed the tariffs and a bunch of other stuff as well. You know, I think it's a lot of, when any business was kind of going bad in 2021, everyone just blamed COVID. It's an easy blame for the market. It's just when you start to get to the third one, you're like, ooh, that's interesting. Especially for the same reason, it just starts to read as a bit hollow to me. Like, it sounds like that there's another issue with the game. And I think Terminator as a whole, like, hasn't made anything good in quite a while, and I'm starting to get worried about this franchise, and I've been worried about the franchise for a while, but I was keen on this game. You know, 2D, it's a bit of a run to the older era, but it seemed like it was going to be quite fun as a platformer and a shooter and a bit of a storytelling device. And now that it's been delayed 3 times, and I know they said it's the physical means, but I'm just starting to get worried that there's actually more at play here. There's more than meets the eye, if I can go the Transformers line. Speaking of franchises that aren't doing that well, I'm a bit worried now. I just don't think, with how late that they're doing these delays, that it is just the physical components of the physical releases that's the problem. I think it's an easy excuse for something which seems to be taking more time, especially because they just seem to be pulling the trigger a week out before a launch, or before a deadline date. So that it either says there's either one or three things going on. The physical side of things is a bit of a disaster, and whoever's in charge of that is not very good, or isn't very good at conveying information to the rest of the team. 2, there are problems and they're just using this as an excuse on top of everything else. Or 3, management inside, or at least the ecosystem of the workplace isn't great, and the company itself lives in denial until the last possible second when they have to delay a game. The fact they delayed a game for physical copies like 5 days before it was going to get released in October is wild to me. That is pretty insane when you think about it. So it just doesn't seem like a business being run very well. Not too many people have had their hands on the game. I know they've had like a couple of little booths here and there, but everything's kind of been on rails. So I'm wondering if the different consoles and the different mixes causing problems. The other thing was the first delay was originally just going to be on the Xbox, and then that was changed like the day after. It was just going to be Series X and Xbox One, and then kind of the news and everything kind of changed a little bit. So around that, so that is something that is a little bit interesting too, that they might be having problems sort of scaling this to everything. That's what I think the problem might be. And it's just not playing well on everything. They want to do a wide launch. They want to do a collective launch at the same time with physical assets and digital on all platforms at the same time. And I just don't think it's coming together in more ways than one. Whether that's because they're unorganized or whether that, they have had actual problems. And, it's probably, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But I'm starting to get worried. I'm starting to just think that there might be an issue here with the game. And hopefully they've delayed it enough to be able to fix those issues. And when it comes out, us as the end users don't even know that there was a problem. It might be a story to read about in 10 years' time, but I don't think... I'm starting to get worried that when this product does come out, it's not going to be what I hope it was, because I think it is something so different and unique, especially as a storytelling device. And it brings a whole new generation to Terminator. And this IP should work so well for gaming. It really should, and it just hasn't thus far. No one's really got the essence of Terminator, that real scary factor. I know there's that Survivor game coming out. Again, that's in development hell, and that's been delayed a bunch, and early access has been delayed. So whatever it is with Terminator just seems to just always have problems releasing, whether there's issues with like the license provider of the IP like being slow to approve things. Like, I just don't know, but it seems to be like real problems. And the fact that physical assets took so long and they kind of blame tariffs. I mean, what does paying 10% more have to do with it being delayed 6 months? Like, that's where it starts to ring hollow to me. It's not like tariffs have caused issues when it comes to shipping like COVID did. Just things cost a little bit more. So whether they're just sort of going back and forth on price, or I just don't know, or one of the suppliers dropped out. There's definitely something here that doesn't make sense to me, that isn't truthful in the statement. And a company shouldn't be completely 100% truthful with consumers. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. You kind of have a bit of a party line that you send out to the market that you're happy with, because you don't want people commenting on, hey, this seems like to be a shit show. But it's just when something gets delayed 3 times, it really causes an issue for me, because it just shows that they're not realistic about release dates, and it just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and it just shows as a whole things are disorganized, especially small. I find it when it's small increments, it means deadlines won't hit for certain things, and it's just like, well, you probably should have known that ahead of time. So whether there's certain department heads that are saying, no, it's all fine, until the last possible second when it's not. There's just something going on that doesn't make sense to me, that I think we're just not being told, and it has me worried about the game. I'm hoping I'm wrong, or I'm hoping that if there was an issue, we don't have that problem. But I'm really worried that gameplay wise, there's going to be issues, there's going to be bugs. I'm hoping I'm wrong on this one. Anyway, that is the whole video. Really just me being worried about a 2D platformer in the Terminator universe. So there you go. Hit the subscribe button. We've got a lot of game stuff coming out, play sessions and different things with my brother and I, now that he's back in action after breaking a shoulder. So we're good to go. Comment down below anything to do with Terminator, and hit the like button, because that really does shoot these videos out far and wide. My name is Brenton. This is Redline Live. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. See you, and bye.